welcome back. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome. In the last video, I discussed how to decode Shakespeare. I gave you some tips to understand and actually enjoy the bard's plays and sonnets. Today, I want to focus on those of you who may be interested in performing Shakespeare, but perhaps a little intimidated. Number 1, understand the words that come forth from thy mouth. Now, that may seem a little obvious, but there are tons of Shakespearean words and phrases that don't ring entirely clear in today's society. Words had different meanings in those days and different usages. I'd suggest you go back and watch Decoding Shakespeare. That's a good start. It's crucial to understand Shakespeare's words before you attempt to perform his plays. You might also read a play that has both the original on one page and a modern translation on the page facing it. A good way to begin understanding. I find it very helpful for younger performers. Of course, too, you should always read the play first, or the scene or monologue that you are going to perform. Now, if you're doing the entire play, then it is imperative that you read the entire play. It's essential that you understand not only what you're saying, but that your character understands what others are saying, what their intentions are, so your reactions are appropriate. And let's face it, sometimes Shakespeare's plots can be a little complicated and convoluted. So the more you read the play, the more you will be able to understand your character, other characters, and the dialogue. Number 3, understanding Iambic Pentameter. Yeah. Shakespeare wrote in a poetic rhythm called Iambic Pentameter. And yes, you really need to understand this in order to share Shakespeare's thoughts and words. Now, each line has a set number of syllables, and there are 2 kinds of vocalizations for each syllable in Iambic Pentameter: stressed and unstressed, or accented and unaccented. In Shakespeare's Iambic Pentameter, there are a total of 10 syllables per line. Think of it like a music beat that goes up and down, da-dum, 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 da-dum. You got it. All right. In Hamlet, he says, "Oh, that is too solid flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew, or that the everlasting had not fixed his canon 'gainst self-slaughter. God, oh God." Now, of course, you're not going to perform it that way. But as you are beginning your rehearsing, as you're beginning your study, say it this way, run it this way. And there's another reason, which we'll get to a little bit later on. Perhaps when you actually get to the performance, you might perform it something like, "Oh, that is too solid flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew," or that the everlasting had not fixed his canon 'gainst self-slaughter. God, oh God. Maybe. Now, side note number 1, nobles speak in verse. The lower, coarser classes speak in prose. It makes it feel like poetry is reserved for the educated because the lower, slummier, peasanty people, the common characters, were too low class to speak beautifully. Now, just like when we text, we use a shorthand to communicate with each other. Shakespeare and his compatriots used punctuation to give his actors hints on how they should read a line. And there are a few differences between how Shakespeare's punctuation was used and the way we use it today. A period, full stop. Okay, that's the same, with extra emphasis. The sentence and the thought come to a complete halt. Okay. Now, I'm not kidding. Some directors who have been trained Shakespearean directors, actors, study, will yell at you, lovingly, of course, if you stop at the end of a line when there is no period, even though it looks like the sentence stops because you're at the end of the line. Keep reading into the next line until you find that period. Now, for example, let's stay with Shakespeare, with Hamlet here. The line reads, written, "Get thee to a nunnery, why wouldst thou be a breeder of sinners?" To perform it. Get thee to a nunnery. Why wouldst thou be a breeder of sinners? Now it makes sense. Okay. Comma indicates a shift in thought, but it's also a great place to take a breath. Colon. Now this is an indication of a new thought rising. The character's taking a new direction with their intention. Now, that's an important clue as you are studying and getting ready to perform. The semicolon is an indication that the next line will be an explanation of the thought that precedes the semicolon. Now, today we will use a parenthetical phrase sometimes to do that. So, in order to be completely comfortable with Shakespeare's punctuation, you just have to practice reading aloud. Try different scenes, different plays. Another little side note. Shakespeare and his playwrights of that period wrote their blocking into the dialogue. There were no directors that were not part of the acting crew. So the direction, how to move, where to move, when to move, was written into the dialogue. Example, come, walk with me, leave us now, come forth and kneel before me, etc. Ingenious. Now, essential for every Shakespeare show and every other show, come to think about it, clarity of diction is imperative. When you perform Shakespeare, if you do not hit your consonants, your words will be jumbled, mushy mess, and no one will understand you. Let them hear those beautiful words, crisp those T's, hit those K's. Let them hear those beautiful words. They will flow from your mouth like a magical river of iridescent, sparkling awesomeness. And your audience will be enraptured by your skill and expertise in enunciation. Enunciation. And do not forget that final syllable in each and every line. We Americans tend to swallow syllables. What you gonna do? What are you going to do? What you gonna do? Now, Shakespeare often wrote his lines in such a way that the final word was the most important. Now, a great exercise, not only to avoid running out of breath and energy at the end of your line, but to give that emphasis. Get a small box, like a shoebox, an empty shoebox. Place it on the floor in an open space. As you read your line, kick the box just as you get to that last word or syllable. It will train the mind so that you won't have to do it on stage by kicking that box. It will give the emphasis you need, and it's a lot of fun too. Okay. Keep intuitive. Now, all of this beforehand here may seem complicated, complex, but after a while, with a little rehearsal, a little practice, it will become second nature. So, my final point, it is as important to understand the fundamentals of Shakespeare from a technical standpoint, but it is a waste of your time and energy and the audience's money if you do not perform with passion, with feeling. You need to energize that language, Shakespeare's language, with passion. Okay. You want to express fully and truthfully, or we're left with just mechanics and no heart. So, thank you for joining us again. Now, if you have any theatrical or acting areas that you'd like to see discussed, contact me. Just go to ocaf, that's ocaf.info, INFO, all lowercase. Leave me a message and we'll see what we can do. So until next time, rehearse, 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 and I will see you on stage.